So, hey guys, Chauzu here. So this is going to be my first beginner video. I've been meaning to start making videos like this in the past, but it's always hard to get the ball rolling, and there's a lot of other good beginner videos out there. I'm just going to share things from my perspective, so there might be stuff here that some people disagree with, and that's perfectly fair. But yeah, and this is going to be team building for beginners from my perspective. And if we talk about the PvE portion of OPTC, which is basically everything in the game outside from the bottom two modes there, Pyro Rumble and Grand Party, we consider those PvP. Aside of those, everything is PvE, and that's what we're going to talk about. How do we build for those? For some modes you don't actually need to build. Like the best example is the normal story mode, for example, which you can basically use anything for and it works. But as soon as you leave that and try to take on other content, you will soon realize that you can't just bring the same units for every team. You have to actually make a mindful decision and use things that actually works. A very common beginner mistake is that they, for example, select all, they maybe sort by attack, because obviously highest attack is the best, right? And I see, yeah, Cairo is cool, Law is cool, Roger the Pirate King is obviously good, Zephyr sucks because I didn't like his movie, because we need a Luffy, of course, and what more, yeah, Katakuri, why not? And then they take a pic of this team, go to a Discord, and then they ask, hey, is this good? And just no. That's not how this game works. If you want more help in the beginning, best thing to do is join the subreddit Discord server. They have a help chat both for if you reroll an account and if you just want to get help getting started more than this video. This will just help with a bit of that. And the cool thing, if we're going to get into the team building aspect, is that we do have a handful of units that are boosted for basically all of these modes every month, because the modes here, Treasure Map, Kizuna, Parking Adventures, they run once a month basically, and they usually change boosters, often with the newest Rare Recruit and Legends that released this month. But there are some very few permanent units, and the great thing with those units is that they are accessible for beginners right away, and it's realistic for beginners to actually max them and get their full potential. And the units I'm talking about are the free-to-play PSY Strawhats. Basically these 10 units, these are just manuals, you can't play this to get them. But basically the way it works, you have 4 of them that you can grind for here. The other 6 you get by doing the beginner Garb Challenge missions, which I don't have, of course. I've beaten all of them. But if you do complete all of them, you'll be able to max out all of these Straw Hats. And by maxing out, I thought I'd show you, because for this video I just grinded these beginners a bit. So let's take Sanji, for example. Obviously, you want to level him up. Usually what you aim for is at least level 99. Level limit break is what we can get by feeding Sanji dupes. In total, for his base abilities, you need 9 dupes, so I am 1 too little. And if you want all of his potential abilities as well, you need a total of 12 dupes. So let's just feed them, not to this Sanji though, let's feed them to this one. Okay, and then you decide what you want. And yeah, you're going to be able to max all of these, so it doesn't really matter what you pick. So you see Sunny went up to level 25. These are sockets, also pretty important. We'll talk about them in a bit. So we got to level 25, a bit too low. Sockets we get from this one. You're going to have them maxed eventually. Might be an issue in the beginning. But once you have them maxed, you can just feed 50 of them and you get both experience and you max out the sockets. And usually for beginners, you don't need to go fancy. You can always just do the left column in terms of sockets. So in this case, I will just remove the others and just pick the 5 on the left. And since we are level 50 now, we can evolve Sanji. So let's do that for the sake of this video. We evolve him. Then we can level up again. And let's just take a look at how Sanji looks right now. You see that it says that Sanji is 4 and 2 out of 3. This one, that's the level limit break. For all of these units we'll be talking about today, you want to unlock level 5. Once you've unlocked level 5, you can get to level 150, but that's not required. The only required thing is that you unlock it. If you unlock it, you're good basically. So now Sanji is just level 1 again, so you can feed more experience items. I'll talk a bit after this how to get them. And after that, what you want to do is, for some of them, potentially feed some cotton candy, since you'll be using these a lot, so they give you extra HP and attack and recovery. You do not want to touch this, since this is not something you need to do for free-to-play units. So don't touch that for these units. And then we have the limit break, and basically you want to get everybody up to this point at least before the key. This is like the maxing out the normal limit break. This key requires you to use a silver key, the one I've highlighted here. And I will touch on how you can get that as well. For some of these units, you do need to get the silver key and limit break expand just so you can get access to the final node potential ability. For some of them, like this Sanji for example, getting that final limit break ability is actually really important for the unit to actually work. And it also makes them faster, so Sanji's special will be 2 CD faster, so you don't need to stall as much. And by stalling I mean wasting turns just so the special gets ready. Okay, before talking about the team building aspect, let's just quickly get over where you get all of these materials, since we're already talking about that anyway. Most of this will be get from the monthly events. Pirate King Adventures can help you get level up materials. Kisna Clash can help you get cotton candy, and it can help you get some stuff that helps for limit break, the elixirs and stuff. It can also help you get something else that is good, but I lost it now. Parking Adventures can also help you get silver keys, by the way. Treasure Map is for limit break materials, and yeah, that's basically the only good way to get limit break materials. So that's like the main thing beginners struggle with. So if you are a beginner, you just need to try and play Treasure Map as much as you can in general, just to catch up with units. This game is often decided about like, can you handle Treasure Map or not? A lot of people don't like it, and if you don't like Treasure Map, this is going to be a hard game to play. other stuff. Garb challenges can also give silver keys. In the recollection archive, we have all the ones which can be used to farm cotton candy and such. I'd say cotton candy is the smallest priority in the beginning, so don't think too much about it. As for more level up material farm, we have this Usopp quest that you can farm, and you get basically a lot of important resources. You get experience to level up, you get the Psyhemes, which you can use on Psy units to level them up, and since all of the units we talk about today are Psy, it works out pretty well. You also get copies of this Usopp, which is great to sell since you get Ray points, which is a good resource that we won't be talking about today. Okay, with that said, let's get into the actual units that are part of this PSY Straw Hat framework, what you should say. Like, we have 5 units. All of them are available in the beginning, free to play. You will get copies, you can get all of them max level limit break. And yeah, then it's just up to you how good you want to make them. You see, I give them a key to all of them. That's why they're saying max with red background. It means they have got a limit break key, which means all of them have their third potential ability. So for Luffy, that's this one called Hunger. And we'll get through the important ones one by one. You will see that some say level max. Level max means level 150. But you also see that there's many here I haven't level maxed. So it does mean that if you feel like I have some high investment somewhere, you don't do enough damage. If you follow the videos I make using these free-to-play Straw Hats, you will usually just be able to invest more than me, and it means you will be able to do more damage than I do. And in my videos, I will try to usually use Marigo, which is a ship you can get in the beginning. And it's also a ship I haven't invested in. The problem for me making beginner teams is that I've started to invest in ships, and that's not beginner friendly. So even if I'd say Whale Sharks is a better ship for beginners, I won't use it myself since I've invested in mine. But it also means that if you feel you struggle with some of the teams I make, you can just try and get one better ship like Whale Sharks, and that will help a lot for sure in terms of damage output and survival and speed and everything. But yeah, let's go through the units and what they do, because it's pretty important to understand what they do. And this will probably be a good reference if you watch my future videos using these PSY Straw Hats to beat content. And I got a lot of videos lined up using them. Luffy is what we call a free-to-play legend, which basically means he has a really strong captain ability, unlike most free-to-play units. He also has something called a super type, which is really useful. You just need a Straw Hat on the team and you can use it. And it's really good. It lets Psy get super type, which means Psy units do more damage to int units. You also make Psy orbs stronger than normal. Not a lot, but it's a nice bonus for extra damage. And it changes all type slots to matching. So if we run a full Psy team, we get a full board of Psy orbs. But we do need color orbs, so strength, dex, quick, int, Psy orbs are changed to Psy. Recovery orbs, tandem orbs, block orbs, anything else is not changed. Captain ability is really good. -1 CD for Psy units, which means they are a bit faster in the beginning. They get 5.25 times attack if you are Psy. Other units get 4.5 times attack, so you mostly want to use Psy units. 1.4 times HP, so you are a bit bulky. You resist the spear and paralysis by 3 turns, and this is what really makes this Luffy great. this is usually an ability that some legend captains have. So anytime you get despaired or paralysis, you get 3 less turns to deal with. And if you run double Luffy, which we'll usually try to do, it means you double that to 6 turns. And it just makes it a lot easier to handle a lot of debuffs. You don't need to use a special to remove them. And if you get a lot of these debuffs, there's only a bit left, which is a lot easier to handle. You also get some extra pirate experience, so that can be good in the beginning when you farm content like the Usopp content I showed before. Special reduces CD by 1. Changes his own slot to matching. He boosts side character's attack by 2.5 times for 3 turns. And if you hit 3 perfects, any attack boost and or boost you have gets an extra plus 0.25 boost. So basically how it works, use his special, you use CD for your teammates, which can help speed them up. You can attack boost that lasts for 3 turns. 3 turns is a key number. It means you get an attack boost for this turn. And unless the enemy deletes your buffs, which can happen, if they do, you don't keep it. But if they don't delete it, you keep it for the next stage. You get the attack boost for 2 turns. And if you pair Luffy up with the Zoro, for example, which we'll talk about after this, and hit 3 perfects, the 2.5 times attack boost becomes a 2.75 times attack boost, which means it will do more damage. And you can also do the same to any ore boost you have. So yeah, this is really good. This is how you will get your attack boost most of the time using this beginner teams. So yeah, that's Luffy. And for Luffy, you definitely want him. You need level 150 unlocked for all of these. As said, not necessarily level them to level 150, but you need to have it unlocked. And for Luffy, you do need to invest the keys in level limit break, because otherwise you do not have a good captain ability. So this is just a requirement. You must do this. Luffy is the first thing you need to invest in order to use these free-to-play teams. Moving on, I'd say the other 4 here are the highest priority. So let's just talk about them so you understand what they do. Zoro, giving him a key is not super important for potential ability. This is not super important. What is important though is that he has a very low CD, 9 turns. So giving Zoro a key is very nice for that. And I make use of that a lot in my teams. Like, if you don't give him a key, it basically means you have to stall 2 turns for every content you run. So he's good to max in that aspect. His special does a lot of damage to all enemies. You get a 3-turn ore boost for side characters, 2.25 times for 3 turns. All of these units will have some effect that you get if you have Luffy on the team or set as support. And since we'll use Luffy as captain, you always get this effect. You reduce death up and threshold by 5 turns, which is a very strong effect. Usually we will use Zoro the stage before final stage. We get ore boost for 2 stages. But sometimes we save him for final stage just to remove these effects. And Zoro is on almost every team I built so far for beginners. So yeah, he's really important. Sanji, he has a very unique potential ability in special double launch. This means you can use his special twice, which is really, really good. You do need to invest a key in him for that, and I'd say after Luffy, he's the highest priority key to invest, just you get this double special. As for his special, he changes the adjacent orb, including block, to matching. And remember, block orb manip only works if the special says it changes block orbs. And it says it changes them here, so thus it works. You also get something called a chain boundary for 2 turns. I'm not going to talk about what that is now. Let me just say it's very good. And it being 2 turns is also good. I'm not going to go in depth into it now, but if you wonder why I use Sanji's special on weird stages sometimes, it's probably because I have used this 2-turn effect to block debuffs from the enemy. So that's just me making that clear. I'm not going to go in depth into why here. And you also have a special effect that is really good. You can also reduce all barriers and damage notifications by 1 turn. Only Sanji can do this on this team, so sometimes that will be essential. So sometimes you want to split Sanji's special up in several stages. Sometimes we just use him maybe twice final stage just because we need to remove those effects. The ADA special does add a lot of damage as well. So Sanji could remove barriers, but that's not the only way to handle barriers. Franky and Usopp can also handle barriers if you have their barrier pan max, which you should have. Barrier pan, very valuable. As long as they are above 50% HP, they ignore barriers and can do damage, and you will see me use that a lot in the beginner teams. As for Franky, he also can remove death up. He removes another debuff than Zoro later though, damage reduction. Zoro removes threshold, Franky damage reduction. So sometimes you can use them different stages to remove different debuffs basically. And the damage boost Franky gives is called color affinity. It basically means that if you have a side team and face int enemies, all your damage to int units will be boosted. So color affinity only increases your damage when you face the color that you're effective against. So for side, that's int. But I will use Franky against other colors anyway, just for his utility in removing death up and damage reduction, and for this very good barrier pen ability. Usopp also has barrier pen, very important to keep in mind. He also has an ability called Fear that can be essential for some harder content. Otherwise, Usopp is not that essential to key. You'd mainly key him for his CD, which actually gets reduced by a lot. It's like 4 faster, so that's a really good value. Special, you can delay all enemies by 2 turns, which is basically never important, so we won't go into that now. It's a nice bonus effect, we can say. The main thing Usopp does is that he reduces special bind by 5 turns. He's the only one on the Straw Hats that can do this. And special bind basically means that none of your units can use specials until you remove it. He also locks crew slots for 2 turns, which means that you'll keep the orbs you have right now unless the enemy changes them. And you can also get a 3-turn chain boost, which is great damage and pairs very well with Sanji's special, but Sanji is not needed to get the damage boost. It's just that they have good synergy together with their specials in terms of damage output. So yeah, does add some good damage as well as having very important utility for the team. Second page are not as good, but I assure you that I've used all of these. Basically, I'd say these 5 I use by default almost. I use these the most. And I only put these in on teams if I feel I need them. And I definitely use Nami and Robin the most of these. Then Brook, while Chopper and Jinbe are definitely the more niche ones. But they have some important niches. Nami and Robin are something that we call conditional boosters. So sometimes they work, sometimes the enemy can block them if they have full immunity. Nami also have a 2-stage special. She also have a potential ability that makes her get her special ready faster, but it's not super important. She already has low special CD. And basically with Nami you can use her special really fast but get a weak effect. Or you wait a bit longer and you get a very strong effect. So Nami with her strong special can remove paralysis and bind by 5 turns. Luffy already resists bind, but sometimes you need to remove even more. And Nami is also the only bind remover out of these free-to-play Straw Hats, and bind is a very common mechanic. So basically need Nami if you want to remove it. She can also apply paralysis and increase the damage dealt to paralyzed enemies. And that's what we call a conditional boost. This is another way to increase damage, but as I said, sometimes the enemies can block this and then you can't apply the paralysis, so you don't get the conditional boost. Robin is probably the best of these, like once you have a good box and get progress in the game, then her kit is really unique and strong, but she's not as relevant in the beginning when building teams. Still really good though. I will say that she also has the ability to resist special reverse, which is basically the only Straw Hat who can do this, but sadly she can't reduce the CD of others. It means you can use Robin special, but you can't use the others, so it's not the best in that aspect. She reduces the spear and attack down by 5 turns. Luffy can already remove most of the spear most of the time. If there's some left, Robin can remove it. Attack down is also a very common debuff, so Robin is the only one who can remove that with her special. She also changes block and adjacent slots carries own type. This means that she will change all block orbs. So she's the only one who can change all block orbs of the Straw Hats. And she also reduces enemies' defense by 80% for 3 turns and boosts damage dealt to death down enemies by 1.75 times for 3 turns. And this is a conditional boost, so you reduce the defense and then you do the extra damage, which is good. Sadly, it only reduces defense by 80%, and a lot of the time that's not enough. You need to remove it entirely or set it to 100% reduction. And the thing is, it says it lasts for 3 turns, but if you defeat a stage and move on, it's not like you keep the death down. The death down is only for the stage when you use it. So you might keep the conditional boost, but to get that conditional, some other unit have to apply a death down. And none of these can really do that without some not very beginner friendly support. So good to keep in mind. Brook also a great unit once you are more experienced at the game. He's used a lot in Treasure Map, for example, to speed things up. Also has double specials. If you want to use him twice in a quest, you need to give Brook a key as well. Special. You do 50,000 damage to all enemies. You reduce threshold and resilience by 5 turns. Brook is the only one who can handle resilience. There are other ways to handle resilience though, but we won't get into that in this video. If Luffy is on the team, yeah, we've already talked about that. You can also apply increased damage taken to all enemies 1.5 times for 1 turn. This is basically another way to get more damage that stacks with all the other ways we talked about before. It just means you do 1.5 times more damage to enemies. This can also be blocked by full immunities. You can't always apply it. Jinbe. He does have a ship bind potential ability. He does reduce it with his special as well, but if there's a lot of ship bind, you might need both. So he reduces ship bind by 5 turns. This is basically an effect that removes your ship, which can suck since ships is often the way you can get easier perfects. Can be hard to manage without that if you're a beginner. And of course, ships also have an attack boost, and that attack boost is removed with ship bind. You make strength, dex, in slots, and matching slot effects for 3 turns. This is very important sometimes because the enemy will apply bad orb effects to your team, like make Psy orbs bad, which sucks for the beginner Straw Hats. But if you use Jinbe special first, you can block that bad orb effect. So sometimes you use Jinbe for that. Sometimes you use him for the fact that he massively reduces damage by 5,000 for 2 turns. Damage dealt over 5,000. This basically means you will barely take any damage above 5,000, so that can be great for survival. And he also gives Psy Catch a plus 1,000 base attack boost for 3 turns. So basically, Jinbe, for example, has 2,267 attack for me. So with this special, he will have 1,000 more. So it sounds good on paper, but yeah, it's not as impactful as the other damage dealing boost you can get. But it's a nice bonus. Finally, we have Chopper, which has a lot of unique utility that is rarely useful, but sometimes you just need it. Okay, Chopper. You will want to use his level 2 special. It will let you get a 60% damage reduction for 3 turns. Then you have 2 different ways of healing. First, you get a direct heal, 10 times Chopper's recovery. My Chopper's recovery is 561, so you get 10 times that, so a bit over 5,000 healing. Then you get, at the end of the turn, after you've attacked and the turn is ending, you get an extra 4,000 HP heal for 3 turns. He also removes all the poison, and you reduce burn and decrease shame by 5 turns. All 3 of those are debuffs that are annoying, but you can also often ignore them. The other debuffs we've talked about so far, you definitely do not want to ignore most of the time, but these you can often ignore in different ways. And you also apply minus 20% psi resistance to all enemies, which means you do 20% more damage to all enemies with your psi units. So it's a nice bonus, but compared to everything, including Jinbe's base attack boost, it's not very influential. Okay, so now you know what the free-to-play PSY Strawhats does. For the end of the video, I just want to talk about 2 other good units that many beginners will get, which is Gear 5 Luffy and Oden. First, a note on Oden, all beginners get him as well for free. And he has not unique, but something the Straw Hats can't do. He has the ability to get 1 orbs. And if you use Oden's special together with Luffy's super type, you can give everybody on the team 1 orb if you use mostly the PSY Straw Hats, which is really cool. And he does also boost every unit, so maybe he himself won't do a lot of damage, but he can help the team get 1 orbs. And the great thing with the 1 orbs is that they are very strong, and the enemy can change them. So if you pair this with a unit like Usopp that we talked about, he can lock orbs. You can guarantee that you will keep those 1 orbs. But yeah, if I bring out the Oden, it means it's a pretty hard content too. Finally, we have Gear 5 Luffy. And I know that many beginners are tempted to evolve him, since when you are more experienced, often the 6+ of this Luffy is stronger, but for a beginner you should definitely keep this Luffy. He will help you a lot more, and he will also do a good job in PvP and such. And the thing is that this Luffy pairs amazingly with the free-to-play Straw Hats. First, you use only Straw Hats. You can use his EX, which is super strong. Then his Captain ability covers everything that is annoying for the free-to-play Straw Hats. And mainly we have special reverse. The free-to-play Straw Hats just can't handle this. I don't know why they did it like that, but they can't handle special reverse. And with Luffy, you're basically immune to it. So that alone is great, but it doesn't stop there. You also resist bind by 10 turns, which is also a very common and annoying ability. And resisting bind and paralysis and the spear and special reverse, which you do with the Gear 5 Luffy Friend Captain and free-to-play Luffy Captain, is incredibly strong. And you can also get a very high attack boost. You can revive from death 1 time, which is obviously stupid broken. And you have a very strong special, so you also just get a lot more damage. You even change all block orbs, which only Robin can do otherwise. So yeah, once I get more harder content, I will probably hybrid up the free-to-play Luffy with Gear 5 Luffy a lot. So yeah, by the time of making this video, this is a unit you should reroll for, but yeah, stuff like that can get outdated soon. But yeah, basically if you want to use my beginner teams well, this is a unit you should reroll for long term. But yeah, that's the end of the video. It's long, but this is supposed to be a reference material also. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.